let's talk about what's been going on in the Ukrainian region, because we haven't really talked about that at all today on the show.
Okay.
We've paid a lot of lip service over the past few weeks to censorship. We've talked quite a bit about Russian censorship, shutting down different media channels in Russia. We've talked about what Vladimir Putin has been doing, that it's illegal to use the word war in Russia. It's a special operation, so be careful. We've obviously known what Vladimir Putin is capable of. But what you might not know, and I've not seen any Western media covering the story at all, good luck trying to find it on ABC, CNN, CBS, anywhere, which is that the Ukrainian government has decided to also ban a number of television stations. So they're calling this on an Al Jazeera article, in a risky move, Ukraine's president bans pro-Russian media. In fact, they've unplugged 3 television networks. Vladimir Zelensky, the guy that you're supposed to support because he's like he's like the greatest hero of all time, right?
American values. He supports American values.
Yeah, American values, Western values. Remember, we were preached to about Western values from our members of Congress and others and Kamala Harris was telling us about Western values. Well, yes, Vladimir Zelensky has unplugged 3 television networks that he accuses of spreading Kremlin-funded, quote, propaganda. Which is surprising to me. Think about how many times now the Ukrainian government has lied about what has been happening in this war. A nuclear power plant was attacked and it's leaking radiation. Was a lie.
Yes.
On and on the list goes, from the Ukrainian government telling us what is going on there, and then when we investigate and find out about it, actually turns out not to be the case at all. Remember the 13 soldiers that said, "Oh, are you a Russian warship? Well, go F yourself," and then they end up getting killed. Turns out that's fake as well. That didn't happen. That was leaked from government sources as well. But you can shut down television stations for speech that you don't like.
Well, the United States supports this.
Of course they do.
The European Union might have condemned it, but in fact, a U.S. official in Europe seemed pleased. And the quote here is, "Media freedom does not include the right to spread malicious propaganda and disinformation." But by definition, it does. Girl? Yes, it does. We support Ukraine's... sorry. That was me saying that. Okay, back to the quote. "We support Ukraine's decision to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity by countering Russia's blatant and malign influence." Okay, but when Zelensky was elected in 2019, he pledged he would never do this, that he would never shut down media, that he welcomes free speech, right? That's not what this is. And this is left, and these are 3 Russians, and this is leaving people who speak Russian in this area without any other resource for news as well. And, if you want to draw a parallel, because these media outlets had been critical of the Zelensky presidency. In fact, his approval rating was quite low before this conflict. And this is a lot like Obama shutting down Fox News, right? We can draw that parallel because these are networks that were already critical to him prior to this conflict.
So they're anchors in this piece. It's interesting. They're anchors, often called the central government's conflict with Russia-backed separatists in the southeastern region of the Donbass region, a civil war, because that's what it was.
But that's
But
not...
you're not allowed to call it that.
What?
You can't call it that.
That's not the company line.
If you don't follow the company line, you'll be shut down. And they said that Crimea's population overwhelmingly supported their peninsula's annexation by Moscow. That is also true, by the way. People want to cry about Crimea, but as I pointed out earlier in the show, when Khrushchev just handed Crimea over to the Ukrainians without even asking the people of Crimea if they wanted to be handed over to Ukraine, they didn't. They're ethnic Russians. They did not want to be annexed by Ukraine. They wanted to go back to Mother Russia. You can't talk about this, though. So if you do talk about this, Zelensky will come in and shut you down your television stations. I mean, this is exactly the kind of Western values. So this is what like Stephen Colbert talks about. Like, hey, you're going to pay more for your gasoline at home in America now. It's going to cost more for you to live your life in America, but you're going to be paying more for gasoline in the United States of America. But this is supporting these Western values that we hold dear.
Yeah, they're right in line.
Which, AKA American supremacy. We should say it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
AKA American supremacy.
Because that's what it is.
But hey, you got to pay more for gasoline in the United States, and that's part of your and you want to, by the way, you want to pay more for gasoline. CNN did this story. They covered this and they said, we've been talking to so many Americans, because that's what CNN does. Remember, there's a famous story a few months ago where they spoke to the average American family during the pandemic who
Yes.
had 12 children.
Yes.
About how high milk prices were hurting them and how, inflation was hurting the average American family with 12 children. So they went out and hit the streets, and they're talking to average Americans, and they're reporting. And it turns out you guys really want to pay more for gasoline.
People we've spoken to over the last couple weeks, they're okay paying higher prices if it means holding Russia accountable for what they are doing in Ukraine. But these prices are likely going to creep higher.
Okay.
I mean, okay, she just did what we call in the business man on the street, where Clayton and
by a
I have
toll
done
booth.
this many times. And
Why
I hate
couldn't
it.
she give us that soundbite from an actual person?
Well, maybe she had them. I don't know.
The people we've been speaking to, I've been speaking
Sure,
to
somebody's going to
everybody.
say that,
Let's
and
ask the
you can
chat.
feed them that too.
So Rasmussen is out with a poll. There's been all these polls, right? I was watching Bloomberg this morning. They were citing the polls, and they were saying, these prices are high, but we keep seeing all of these polls where all of these Americans in these polls are saying that they're okay with the higher gas prices as long as it's sticking it to Putin. So I'm just going to ask you, we got 3,100 people or so watching live right now this show. Let's make a poll. Can we do a poll right now
Yep, I'm
here
doing it
live
right
on our
now.
show? How many of you are okay paying more for gasoline if it means sticking it to Putin? By the way, which is ridiculous because it doesn't stick it to Putin.
No.
Putin's just fine with our oil embargo. So that's like I don't know. What's the best way to describe that? Non sequitur, a non...
It's non-plussing.
doesn't make any sense.
It's nonsense.
Stupid as crap. I don't know. But anyway,
It's not going to work here anymore.
would you be okay? Are you okay paying more for gasoline because this is how you support Western democracy? Like
We already
makes no
have
sense.
We already have 9% at yes out of 100, over 100 votes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, they would.
You guys
Yeah.
support paying higher gas prices.
Okay. From Venezuela, sorry, we have to let you know that it is not. There's it's
False
like a
choice.
diamond. There's no.
Sandy McLeod, who's always the contrarian, says false choice, not playing the game.
Well, yeah, right, because it's not that simple.
Are you
we're
okay?
oversimplifying a question.
But that's how these polls are presented. And so all of these polls that you're seeing across the media right now, and Stephen Colbert going out there saying that he's okay paying more for gasoline right now because it's for his conscience, right? He has a clear conscience as a result of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a false equivalency. That's what I was looking for. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I
Sandy
don't
says,
think
"Stop picking
that
on me. I'm picking on you."
Anthony Goodley says
You
that.
can dish it out. You just can't take it, Sandy. Is that it?
What are we talking about? I'm not in this.
No.
Anthony Goodley said 10% of the viewers in here are rich.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting.
that's the poll. All right, that's what I wanted to get to. So the polling, and Rasmussen has it here. Here's the poll, right? So here's one. Rasmussen did the same poll, and they found out that when you looked at the slide, anyone who makes under $30,000 a year overwhelmingly does not support increased oil prices and increased gas prices. But then it went up and up and up as soon as you're making a lot more money. Like if you're wealthy, you're okay with it. You're absolutely okay with it because you don't feel it. And like Stephen Colbert, who can talk about paying more for gasoline, drives a Tesla.
Okay, but I think we're also simplifying intent here. Like, what if you are okay to pay more for gas because you're hoping that pain point pushes your society towards clean energy?
That's a
Right.
different question, though.
It is a different question, but
But the question, if we knew, so if it were true, let me just say this: if it were true that paying more for American gasoline literally saved lives in Ukraine, would you support that? If you knew that that was the truth, and it's not, and
okay.
it's not the truth, and it's not going to happen, and it's not doing anything.
it's just such a flawed question, but I appreciate the sentiment, right? We're trying to replicate a very flawed question.
Right. But CNN didn't stop them from, though, doing this story.
People we've spoken to over the last couple weeks, they're okay paying higher prices if it means holding Russia accountable for what they are doing in Ukraine.
Wait.
But this is the same media that told us during Christmas time that you were okay to pay more prices for everything, not just gas, right? This is the same media that said prices for everything are going up and you're all fine with it. So go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, so we're to assume that she's been outside gas stations for the past 2 weeks asking people that question?
Yeah. She's standing there.
She's actually at a toll booth, it looks like, isn't she?
No, she's in front of a gas station, I think.
Yeah, that is, okay.
But I could go, hey, we got to go shoot in front of this gas station so it looks legit. Like the weather guy that's like acting like the wind's blowing him really hard and then there's people walking behind him. You ever see that CNN footage? It's kind of the same thing. We don't know. Yeah. Like there's no, show us the interviews, show us real people answering these questions.
Even though one or two people saying those words, though, is anecdotal. It's not a representative sample.
But if you have zero people that are actually saying it when you're at the pump, because if you have people that are at the pumps most of the time, like those are just average working people.
Yeah, so, sure.
Well, I think something that so you kind of get into the what do you call it, like the fatalism of poverty, and I think the problem with a lot of this, like when they're doing these polls and they're asking people, like people with more money would be fine to pay more for gas. The people that don't have that much money have no choice. There's literally nothing they can do. They don't have political influence because they can't afford it, so they're not given an actual choice in who to vote for because that's all done by that same elite group. So it's like the people that are really going to be affected by this stuff also have no choice in the matter. They're just it just frustrates me.
Yes.
And just an update on the poll really quick. For about 500 votes, we're at 12% yes, 88% no.
Okay. All right. You stick it to the man. Then you 10%, 12%.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.